Hello, I'm Bertie. Welcome to Wine Passionistas, the show about people, their passions, wine, and occasionally food. Welcome to the first episode. What the fuck is natural wine? Guess who I'm here with today? Sean, aka the Geordie wine guide, massive pioneer for natural wine. I think we've got one here today.
I'm not that pioneering, mate.
I think he is.
I just drink the stuff, I don't make it.
So when I first met Sean, he was talking to me about a wine. I can't remember what it was, but the way he talked about it, very passionate, extremely sort of off the wall, descriptors like you wouldn't believe. And I'll give you a chance to hear some of those now. So Sean's given us a wine today. Do you want to talk a little bit about this, Sean?
Well, I brought this natty wine with us.
Natty wine.
It's not your usual natural wine. It doesn't smell like wood varnish or piss. This is super clean, burgundy. If you gave it to someone, they wouldn't know it was natural wine. I didn't even know it was natural wine when I tasted it. I asked the guy who made it, I was like, can you tell us how you made it? And I eventually extracted the information out of them.
So when you say that, you know, people wouldn't think this was a natural wine, why do you think that? Why do you say that? What would a person's perception of a natural wine usually be that would make them think that this wasn't?
Well, it's the natty wine haters, isn't it? Because they've had an orange wine once. It was a bit funky and it had a bit of farmy smell. It maybe smelled a bit like varnish. Maybe had some roughness. It was a bit animally and bretty and volatile. A bit like nail polish.
Are those things that don't come with natural wine though?
Well, that's just wine, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's just volatile acidity, or it's poor management of bacterial taints in the winery, or.
I have to say,
might just be the style. You might just want to make it super funky and orange.
I have to say, this is delicious.
This is so clean.
So is this possible for viewers if they wanted to buy this? Is this available in the UK?
Yeah,
it is.
It's just really under the radar.
Where can you get it from?
Well, there's an importer. I don't think any shops are putting in their shops yet.
Really?
There should be.
And it's less than £20?
So the guy who makes this is called Julian, right? He's in the village of Nolay in Burgundy, next to a guy called Fred Cossar. Have you heard of him?
I have.
Like really,
just then.
Really popular producer.
It's excellent.
Hipster.
How many wines does he make?
A few.
Yeah.
He does a bit of Gevers.
Excellent.
San Roman, that's the village.
But Sean, you don't actually work in the wine trade, do you?
No.
Interesting enough. So for someone who knows so much about wine and so enthusiastic about it, usually they would work like myself or other, wine lovers would usually work in the trade. But Sean has a different career, don't you?
Audio.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Let's hope the audio is not shit on this.
Yeah. So
I'm going to look like a twat.
Sean has very kindly allowed me to use his lovely space today. So all of this amazing gear you see is actually his.
You mean this gear?
And that gear. So
this gear.
So he's. I've brought something for later.
Good gear.
A show stopper, hopefully, and Sean's going to have to guess what it is. But before that, just tell us a bit about what you do day to day. What's your audio life look like?
Well, I sell speakers and microphones and all that stuff.
Yeah. Ever work with anyone famous?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Brian Ferry.
No.
Fellow Geordie.
Also a Geordie. Amazing.
I've done a few studios for famous television chefs.
You can't name them?
No. Top secret.
Well, maybe we can guess by what you had to do for them. What sort of job did you have to do?
Just set up a recording studio.
Is that it? So it's going to be a chef who's into his music and into recording.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not guess. We'll leave that for a later day.
I've been to Abbey Road. We sell gear to the BBC. You know when you watch the weather and you see them little head mics.
Do I know when we watch the weather? I'm an Englishman who doesn't know about watching the weather. Yeah, I think I know.
So when you watch the BBC weather and you see them mics there when they're talking.
Yeah.
They're from me.
They're from you personally?
Yeah.
Well, you made them?
No.
So you just you're like an agent for someone who makes these things? That's cool.
With a distributor or a dealer.
That's excellent. And so I guess music is a big driver from this passion, is it?
Yeah.
Because when I was making the theme tune for this, which Sean very kindly did for me, incredibly enough, did it in a matter of seconds.
Well,
a few minutes.
A few hours.
Yeah. I sent him the song that I wanted the jingle to be based on, thinking that it was by the Klaxons all along, and he immediately wrote back, that's originally by... Grace. So I had no idea about that. So immediately, yeah, well done. You've got great musical taste as well. Well, not necessarily musical taste, great musical knowledge. But yeah, the wine thing. I met you, I think it was at a blind tasting at Bedale's. Does that sound right? And I've seen him on Instagram, loved his stuff. You know, the guy does amazing. You should definitely check him out, actually. What is it? Follow here, is it the Geordie Wine Guide or is it just Geordie Wine Guide? Big difference.
Can't remember.
It's the Geordie Wine Guide and lower as well. It'll be here somewhere.
So look.
Go on.
No.
Geordie Wine Guide. Know that.
No, the Instagram handle's just Geordie Wine Guide.
But you also have a natural wine Facebook group with about 20,000 followers. Is it more than that?
The Natural Wine Forum.
And in that as well is 3 Scoops, please.
Mate, 3 Scoops, please.
Who couldn't make it today because I didn't actually ask him. But we'll do another podcast where we get both of you on, and then we can just do a massive natural wine fest.
Yep.
Something else we see in front of us today is something that we're both very passionate about: cheese. Sean, do you want to?
Should we have a go?
Should we have a go on one of these?
Bit of Morbier.
So the thing about cheese and wine is obviously they do go really well together. But how do you match them? Is there a way? Sean, what do you do? Or do you not overthink it? No, I'm massively... I'm one of those people that doesn't like to overthink too much about what you're pairing with what, more about what doesn't go with what.
You live next to all the best cheesemongers, don't you?
Yeah, so this was fresh from Mons Cheese in London, on Enid Street in Bermondsey. Every Saturday they're open from 10 till 2, and you can just grab some of the best English, Welsh, French, Italian cheeses that there are. They've kindly supplied our Christmas this year, which is fantastic.
I reckon this is from the Jura. Am I right?
So this black line you see running through, I don't know if you can see that.
Is that from the Jura?
Running through the middle of that is... What do you think it is?
Morbier from the Jura.
Yeah, but what? Yeah, it is Morbier. But what's the black line that runs through it? What's the black line that runs through it? It's a bit of charcoal, everyone. So I'm not quite sure what that actually does.
That would be the pairing. Labé. Same area, isn't it?
That's very good.
Up in the hills of Jura.
Okay, look. Let's go back to natural wine quickly. What are the 3 things that annoy you the most? Misconceptions in natural wine. What 3 things annoy you the most, just in general, about that subject?
People categorising wine. Don't categorise it. It's all wine. Like, really, I want to get away from heavily industrialised wines that are made with machines.
Okay, so like Barefoot or Yellowtail. Or...
Just in a really big industrialised way, and lots of additives, because you don't know what's in the wine.
And
really.
What would you say to someone who currently is buying wine, and there's a lot of you out there, because I was one about 2 years ago, will go into their local supermarket and basically just buy a $6.99, $7.99 wine that is just basically from Italy or from France, very generic.
I don't want to sound snobby, but
you don't have to sound snobby. Just sound like you, and people will make their own minds up.
You don't really want to go to the supermarket if you want to taste wines that don't have additives, because the labelling laws aren't there yet, so you can't look on a bottle and see what's in the wine.
Okay.
You assume.
And why is that important?
Well, you would assume there's just grapes in it, but
there's not.
There's not. There's loads of other shite in there.
Is there rules on how much other stuff they can put in?
Well, there's sort of rules, but some of it's a bit scary. Like,
really?
Yeah, like you
dun,
can.
Dun, dun.
Like, some of the Chardonnay that you find has oak powder. It's like powdery shit that makes it
so
taste
they've got
oaky.
The wine in a vat.
Like they can't afford barrels, so they put powder in, or they put like bits of wood in, like staves and that.
What, like the bits you find in playgrounds?
Right, not like this. This is a proper barrel.
Yeah, not this one. This is fantastic. But are you saying that they basically have a vat of wine, and then they have little sachets, and they'll add flavour depending on what they're trying to do?
If the weather was too hot and there wasn't enough acidity, they put like acid powder in there, or if the fermentation doesn't start, they'll add a packet of yeast. And that sounds fine, because it's all going. You think, it's going to get converted into alcohol, isn't it? So you wouldn't really taste the yeast, but the actual yeast does add flavour.
Yeah.
So when you use yeast that's ambient around the vineyard, on the grapes themselves, all that stuff, that actually adds to the flavour of the place in the glass. So if you want your wine to taste like where it's from, and to not be full of shite,
this is where
you need to be moving away from heavily industrialised. Conventional wine.
So let's say you're watching this out of interest, and you're interested in getting to learn a bit more about wine. Where would you start? Because I know I would start with a basic introductory. I know that you're probably not a huge fan of this, but the WSET level 2, I'd probably start with that and then not do any more. I'd go and learn my own.
Well, the WSET's great because it gets you thinking about the world of wine, the country's origins, what grapes are where.
It's very accessible as well. You can do it for about 100.
Because once you start thinking about where your wine's from, how it's made, then you're going to start thinking, well, I don't want to taste a wine that's full of shite.
Behind the cam.
If you want to find natural wines, don't go in a shop and stress about it. Just find a small independent wine shop and buy the wine and try and figure out who made it and where it's from and all that stuff. And don't get hung up on what's in it, because most small artisanal wines that are made on a small scale won't be full of shite.
No.
And it's not about them being natural or having zero sulfites or zero this or, you know what I mean?
Well, let's find out, because on the way here, not only did I pick up 3 fabulous cheeses, but I also bought 2 amazing wines, one of which we're going to blind taste now. It's time for blind tasting.
Wow, this is nice.
And Sean, because when I met him, he was so... The way he does it is just... It's interesting. A lot of people make wine tasting look really, really fucking boring. And Sean, just walk us through what you do when you get a wine in the glass. From the moment you get it, what do you... Talk us through it. Do it now.
You've got to get your beak in the glass, man.
Yeah.
That's what the Australians have told us. Get your beak in the glass, mate. So this is... I've looked at the colour. It looks a bit light.
Do you want to show it to the camera just to see if they can get a bit of...
Quite light. It's not like a dark purpley one, is it? It's a bit more like red and light. Give it a swirl. Have a little smell.
It's almost got like a brownie edge, isn't it?
A little bit. So the nose is quite fresh fruit.
So what's the nose when people are watching this? What
smell it? If it smells of old stuff like dried fruit or tobacco or really like
smoke,
old man smells,
leather,
you might think, oh, it could be a bit older.
Okay.
But because this is like fresh fruit, quite vibrant, I'm thinking this is a young wine, no more than a few years old. The other thing I notice is it's got a little bit of that nail polish smell, but it's just a little bit, so it's pleasant. And it's also got a little bit of funk. And when we say funk, we're talking about like sort of wild, funky, outdoorsy, you know, like a farm smell. But just a tiny little bit.
Like a hint.
And that's coming from bacteria and microbes. So
just a touch.
So you know that it hasn't been manipulated heavily and filtered and just totally sterilised. So it's actually got some character.
So what would you say? How would you describe the wine's flavour?
Well, I think this is a French wine.
Okay. It's going to be fun to reveal this.
It's quite classic. The fruit's precise. It doesn't feel like a very warm, ripe fruit. It feels quite crunchy, like sort of.
Do you have an idea on the grape?
Fruit. I would say maybe something like Pinot Noir, something light skin because of the colour and the low tannins.
It might be. I couldn't possibly say. You will find out though.
So if I'm judging where the wine's from, I'll be thinking about acidity, how ripe the fruit is, styles, grape varieties.
And based on all of that, you've deduced that you think this is a French wine made out of the Pinot Noir, which is a red grape, very thin-skinned, quite difficult to grow and control. Are you going to stay with that?
This is gorgeous wine, man.
It is good, actually.
This is cool.
I got 20% off as well because it was I think what are they called? Articulus wines. Near Mons, there's a winemaker. I'll put the name down in the description after.
If this could be from Burgundy, could be from Jura. Cool climate, Pinot Noir, natural.
Do you want me to tell you where it's from?
It's pretty serious. Yeah. Go on then.
So it is Pinot Noir. It is pretty young, but it's actually from Tuscany.
Is it?
Yeah.
Tuscany.
Tiny little vineyard on a slope, which is they literally make like, I don't know, the guy said like 50 cases a year or something. Very little information about it on the back. Toscana Pinot Nero 2016. So you had the grape, you had the vintage.
Is it
just
up in
missed
the
the
hills
country. Yeah. It's like a really
altitude.
steep thing. I'll show you the after this. I'll show you the picture.
Doesn't taste hot.
But it's that's about £27. That
Worth it.
with 20% off, it's like 23. So
It's got quite a long finish.
it's bloody delicious, isn't it? What do you think?
It's right on the edge of sort of. There's this thing we call mousiness that comes in the end on your palate.
Explain that, because that's something that people hear a lot. Maybe that's one of the terms I think that people get intimidated by, is when they hear people talk about reduction, sulfur, mousiness, Brett.
I think this is a wine that's had not much sulfur. Sulfur would be to stabilise the wine and stop the bacteria from going a bit wild.
And for all you wine geeks out there, we will do an episode just on natural wine, sulfur, all that boring stuff that people want to listen to, but maybe not right now.
I think this is
delicious.
This is just within the boundaries of wine not getting a bit too ridiculous, because the bacteria, the mousiness, it reacts with your saliva, and you get this sort of mouse cage thing at the end on the finish. But in very small amounts, this it's not too bad.
Great. Well, I'm glad you've enjoyed it. That's a good find.
But this is the sort of bottle that after maybe an hour or two could turn.
What, just go completely off the edge?
Could come,
and it would just be disgusting and undrinkable.
Which is one of the problems with natural wine for me, because you don't want to have a bottle.
Yeah, it's
you don't have a
inconsistent.
bottle that's inconsistent or changes.
Yeah.
So that's one of the risks you have to take. But if we'd just had a bottle that had loads of sulphur, we wouldn't have had all of this interest and funkiness.
Yeah, it would have been
the
boring.
wild
Less to
smell,
talk
the
about.
terroir.
It is very wild, isn't it? Anyway,
It's really interesting.
you've been fantastic with the whole episode. Thank you very much for hosting me today. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I will definitely like to see you all next time. Don't forget to subscribe at The English Wine Guy on Instagram, YouTube, and there'll be a channel coming on TikTok as well, so keep posted for all of that, and see you next time.